Andrew Bone is with us from BamaInsider.com. Good morning, Bone. You in 1983, how old were you?
I was not born yet.
Oh, Lord. Okay, well, you don't remember a lot about that 1983 defense. I knew you'd be young. My gosh.
I was -2.
I'm old, man. I've gotten so old, so it's scary. But hey, listen, let's jump right in, and the name that is just being ballyhooed all over the message boards, and Alabama fans are having a field day with Bryce Young, the USC quarterback commitment. There's a lot of buzz that it is just a time game now as to when he flips to Alabama. Give us the latest on Bryce Young, the outstanding quarterback out of California.
Well, the latest on Bryce Young is he's having an outstanding football season. There's no doubt about it. 2 weeks ago, I think he passed for over 500 yards, and then this past week, on Saturday, he played St. Francis out of Baltimore, Maryland, one of the top high school football programs in the country. Has sent a few players down to Tuscaloosa, Shane Lee, Darian Dalcourt, Yabi Anoma, who's no longer there, and then Alabama does have a commitment in the 2020 class from Chris Braswell, the 5-star DN, and they just didn't have an answer for Bryce Young on Saturday. He counted for 350 yards all-purpose and had 4 rushing touchdowns. Just a dominant performance out there. But onto the recruiting scene. The talk seems to have intensified a lot, and probably in the last 10 days or so. I think a lot of people were just kind of expecting a flip to happen. I talked to his father last week, and he basically said, still nothing yet. Still kind of waiting to see kind of what happens throughout the season. I don't know if anything's going to happen within the next couple weeks, but I wouldn't be surprised if something happened within the next month or so. I think, despite what's going on at USC, I think the relationships that he's built down in Tuscaloosa are really strong. And I keep having people tell me, well, he hasn't visited Alabama since 2018. Well, that doesn't really matter much because, one of the biggest things of his family is they just don't want to take visits while he's committed. They don't want to show any disrespect to USC. If they were committed to, pretty much anywhere, they wouldn't take visits.
Right.
Until he was decommitted or until he, flipped to another program. Just wants to show respect to those coaches that recruited him and not take all these visits while he's committed. So I think we're just going to have to be patient, wait and see what happens. I think there's a lot of talk that he's going to flip within the next week or two. I don't see that happening, but I do see it happening sooner rather than later. Originally I thought if he was going to flip, it would be after the season, but I kind of see it happening sooner than that, just because Alabama's still trying to recruit some big name guys. They're trying to recruit really well on the offensive side of the ball, trying to get some more, at least one more wide receiver, trying to get obviously an elite tight end such as Eric Gilbert or Darnell Washington, and getting a player like Bryce Young on board to help recruit those guys, I think would help a lot. And I think that's probably, maybe something Alabama has talked to Young about, joining the class so he can help recruit. And I think that's probably something that's on his mind a good bit right now. And obviously, the Slovis out there at USC, true freshman, having a good season, coming in and taking over for the injured quarterback. I think he's having a really good year. The quarterback position is probably going to be wide open next year for Alabama as long as Tua ends up leaving early for the NFL draft. And I think they really like the way Alabama's been able to develop quarterbacks, especially Tua, and I think Alabama's in great position with him right now.
Good update, Bone, on Bryce Young. Listen, Alabama's got 22 commitments, and now, again, there could be a little bit of a turnover in that class, but still, I mean, you got a limited amount of numbers left in terms of how many players you can take in this 2020 class. So we're down to the nitty-gritty, and I know you have to be very selective, but running back, they've got 2 really good ones committed, but they meaning Alabama, to want another running back in this class. A new name has come up. Tell us about Will Shipley out of Matthews, North Carolina, Weddington High School, that reportedly has an offer now. Now he's a 2021 back, I know, but still looking ahead to the future. Tell us about Shipley.
Yeah, very exciting running back. One of the top running backs in the country for the 2021 class. I think that Alabama offered him on. I think that was on Sunday night, but out of North Carolina, Alabama's really starting to hit the state of North Carolina. Over the course of the last 8 months, they've really started really turning up the heat in the state of North Carolina, and he's the number one all-purpose back in the 2021 class. So, definitely somebody to kind of keep an eye on for next year. But speaking on this 2020 running back class, Alabama does have two excellent running back commitments in Roydell Williams and Kyle Edwards, and I think adding a third will pretty much be dependent on what happens with Zachary Evans. Does he end up in Alabama's class down the road? Now, there's a lot of kind of confusion as to what he's doing right now, because he pretty much has gone silent on everyone, and a lot of people were assuming he was going to commit to Georgia last week. It didn't happen. Nobody really knows what he's going to do right now, but Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, LSU, all very strongly in the mix for him. And I've said for a long time, I would be very worried if I was the first school that Zachary Evans commits to, because he's still going to take all of his official visits, and it's still going to go all the way down to the wire. So I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was the first school that got his commitment, because I think he would eventually end up flipping and going somewhere else. And I'd really watch out for Texas A&M with him, or LSU, schools that are a little bit closer to the Houston area for him. I think those schools are doing a great job recruiting him, and I know he really likes Alabama and Georgia a lot, but and he could easily commit to Georgia. I still predict him to commit to Georgia at some point. I just think that come signing day in December, it could easily end up being Texas A&M or even LSU. So, long way to go in his recruitment. Alabama's still also recruiting Oklahoma commitment Jace McClellan, who's in the Rivals 100, who's going to visit Alabama in November. I don't see him flipping. I think he's pretty firm with Oklahoma. Now, he is cousins with Scooby Carter, Alabama freshman DB. So some people think that may give Alabama a little advantage for him. I just don't see it. I think he's going to end up sticking with Oklahoma. So if Alabama gets a third running back, it's going to be Zachary Evans. But if not, they won't take a third guy, and I think they'll be pretty happy with the guys they have.
Sounds good. We're visiting with Andrew Bone. Still time for you to sneak in a phone call and a question for Bone if you want to on the Bud Light Hotline at 205-342-9904. All right, I want to talk to you about some of these 2020 guys that Alabama continues to recruit that are highly rated guys. Let's start with Eric Gilbert. You mentioned him already, but this is a tight end that Alabama seems to have really zeroed in on. There are others that they're recruiting, I get it, but this seems to be the guy that if there is a board in there with a list of tight ends, it would appear that he's number one, right?
Yeah, you'd have to think so. Just a spectacular athlete at the tight end position. He's definitely a guy who could come in and make a big impact. He's 6'5", 230 pounds, runs a 4.5 40. Just an incredible athlete, and he's he can definitely help turn around a program or make a program better. There's no doubt about it, especially at the tight end position. As of right now, I think it's a tight battle between Alabama and Clemson. Now, a month and a half ago, it was a tight battle between Georgia and Tennessee. Now all the momentum has shifted to Alabama and Clemson. So you never know where it may be a month from now, and he's still taking all of his official visits. And Clemson's really coming on strong for him. But a lot of people really believe that Alabama's in the driver's seat. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I definitely think that Alabama has done a great job with him. They need another tight end in this class. Now, they are still recruiting a couple other guys. Darnell Washington, the big 5-star from Las Vegas, 6'7", 260 pounds. He's going to come in for an official visit in November. Theo Johnson out of Canada is actually going to come in for an official visit in November as well. So Alabama's still recruiting some really talented tight ends, but I think that their best chance is with Eric Gilbert.
All right, let's run down some other guys in this 2020 class that Alabama's very active with. What's the latest on Phillip Webb, the outside linebacker out of Lanier High School in Buford, Georgia? 4-star.
Well, it's still kind of fluid with him. Nothing really has changed. He did take an official visit out to Oklahoma last weekend. He's already taken an official visit to LSU. Alabama, Auburn, still very high on his list. Alabama, really pressing hard for him. They really want him to be a part of this recruiting class. I mean, I think he's an elite pass rusher. Can really come in and make an impact, but he keeps things pretty close to the vest. He doesn't really say, who's leading. Everyone kind of has their own opinion. Some people think LSU, some people think Auburn because he grew up an Auburn fan. His father went to Auburn, but I think Alabama's very much still in the picture and very high on his list, and he can easily go there.
McKinley Jackson, the big 4-star defensive tackle out of George County, Mississippi, number one player, I think, in the state of Mississippi. A lot of recruiting interest. We know interior defensive linemen are at a premium. What's Alabama's level of interest with him and his level of interest with Alabama?
Well, the interest level has been high for a very long time. He decommitted from LSU about a year ago, and when he decommitted from LSU, a lot of people assumed that he was going to Alabama, and he was heavily recruited by Mississippi State, or he is heavily recruited by Mississippi State, but at the time he was heavily recruited by Mississippi State defensive line coach Brian Baker, who is now at Alabama. So they have a tremendous relationship, and it really helps Alabama out a lot. But, he wants to take it all the way until signing day in February, and I wonder, kind of where Alabama stands with their recruiting class come February. Will they have any room left? So a lot's going to just depend on what happens with maybe some other guys down the road. But Alabama's very high on his list, along with Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn. All those schools are going to get visits from him this fall.
All right, I want to ask you about Brian Robinson out of South Florida there, an area where Alabama's really cleaned up in terms of wide receiver recruiting. 6'2", 185, 4-star receiver out of West Palm Beach, Florida. What's the latest on Brian Robinson?
I think the biggest thing with Brian Robinson is getting him on campus. Alabama's been trying to get him on campus for a while. I think he's going to visit in the next couple of weeks. And a lot of people have just assumed that Florida State is going to get him. He named Florida State as his leader this summer, but things aren't going real well down in Tallahassee. I think the pitchforks are starting to come out a little bit, and I think that he's starting to look around a little bit more. Maybe some steadier programs, and Alabama's certainly a program that he likes a lot, that he wants to visit before making a decision. So, I think the biggest thing is just getting him on campus, kind of waiting to see what happens, down at Florida State, and just continuing to recruit him, because Alabama certainly wants another wide receiver in this class, and he's one of the top ones on their board.
9:48, wrapping up with Andrew Bone, senior recruiting analyst for BamaInsider.com, part of the Rivals.com network, his weekly Bama football recruiting report. All right, Bone, as we wrap up, I always like to kind of close with this, because sometimes you have a little nugget. You've tipped us off before, hey, watch for this, watch for that. Now, as I said, 22 commitments, so it's going to be a little slow in terms of the commitment game probably for a while. But anything you've got, a little nugget that you might could tip us off to, anybody that we need to be watching for that we haven't mentioned that's, that you've got some intel on?
Well, I'll tell you this. Tino Sinceri just posted a tweet today. If you don't follow Tino Sinceri on Twitter, I recommend it. He posted a tweet kind of signifying that a commitment is imminent. Didn't really indicate who it was going to be or a position, but a couple guys that I would keep an eye on over the course of the next few weeks. Jamil Burrows, the former four-star defensive line commitment for Georgia, recently decommitted. I would keep a very close eye on him because I think there's a good chance that we could see him commit soon. But also Bryce Young. I mean, as we mentioned in the beginning of the interview today, keep a very close eye on Bryce Young, of course, for the next, at least the next month, in my opinion. I think Alabama's got a great chance to get him on board.
And, of course, folks, Andrew J. Bone is the Twitter handle, at Andrew J. Bone. And, of course, Bone, I know you're in the business of giving up the latest recruiting information, and the easiest way to get it is to become a member of BamaInsider.com. Tell our listeners how they can do exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. You just go to BamaInsider.com, which is part of the Rivals.com network. Sign up, get you a 30-day free trial that we offer. You can also follow me on our Bama Insider YouTube channel. I'll have a YouTube video up tomorrow. Kind of give the latest on recruiting. But, yeah, definitely join our community at BamaInsider.com.
Indeed. And catch him every Wednesday morning here at 9:30 on the Gary Harris Show. Thanks a lot, Bone.
All right, Gary. Thank you.